Guess what we learned in our class today.
What class?
Well, you know how I'm taking Intro to Africana Studies, right?
Mm-hmm.
Today we learned about some guy named Nathan Hare. Well, he's not just some guy. Do you know who that is?
Never heard of him.
Well, he got his PhD from University of Chicago.
That was one of my top schools.
Great choice, great choice. This man got a PhD in sociology. And he originally taught at Howard University, you know, the HBCU.
Mm-hmm.
But he got fired.
Why?
Because he wanted to push the black movement and like teach more about black perspective while they're teaching these kids about Eurocentric worldviews and then he kept like trying to push more and more and then eventually they fired him.
Wait, so Howard fired him because he was trying to push education about African studies?
Yeah, basically. Wow. Because it wasn't based on their perspective, so he was trying to like reel it in and eventually they got tired of him and fired him. And that's how I took it in, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And luckily he didn't go jobless after that because Jimmy Garrett, which was a student in San Francisco State College, he called him up because they met at a conference, the ASA conference, mm-hmm. American Sociological Association conference, and together they were talking about the black perspective and about black movements and stuff like that, and eventually they figured that education was a big part of this movement. So he called in, Jimmy Garrett called in Nathan Hare to San Francisco State College, which is, by the way, one of the only schools in the United States. They were the first to develop the black curriculum because of Nathan Hare. Yeah, so eventually, you know, this led a movement, which is why we have one now at Seton Hall. But because of Nathan Hare, now we have this black curriculum. And in one of his articles about questions and answers about black studies, Nathan Hare mentions the importance of black education as a black community centered, meaning that there has to be a relationship between the education and the community, because you know not everyone gets to go to school, not everyone gets to be educated, not everyone's interested in all that stuff. So he feels that education is what needs to bridge that gap, even to those who cannot obtain it. So in his curriculum about black studies, he first of all mentions that it needs to be black centered or through a black perspective. Do you know what
Oh yeah, so like the professor has to be black to teach it?
Not necessarily. He prefers that the person who's teaching it needs to be profound and knowledgeable within the black perspective. So for example, like they can't teach in a Eurocentric worldview, whereas Eurocentric worldview is focused on independent studies and independent advancements, whereas the black perspective is focused on the cultures and about how everything is interrelated and interconnected. So I think that's pretty cool because when I started thinking about this, I was like, wow, we really do think that we need to be independently successful. We don't think as a whole, as a community.
So that means only black professors can teach Africana studies?
Not necessarily. It just means that you have to be based off the African perspective. You have to know how they think, what their culture is like, what their belief systems are. You can't just pretend to know when you really don't. So this goes also for the students. Like you can't just take a class for black studies. I mean, you might be interested, but you might be fogged into like the Eurocentric perspective, so you fail to see what they're actually trying to say.
But taking that class though could like help broaden their perspectives on it.
Yeah, that's why Nathan Hare says it's crucial that the black students take it, for example, so that they know and they familiarize themselves with who they are. But it's if white students or white professors want to teach, they just have to be centered around the African perspective. Okay. And do you have a clear idea of what the African perspective?
Yeah, like what I hear you like saying like black perspective and the black culture, but what exactly does that surround?
This is contingent on the fact that they have different values. For example, well, not just values, but like different schools of philosophy, like cosmology, which has to do with the study of the universe, and the African perspective believes that everything is interrelated and interconnected. Axiology, which is the study of values. I said cosmology already, but it's around those like schools of philosophy, and it's all come around again a base of community and how everything should be interrelated and interconnected. And I know I've said this like 30 times, but I just really want you to get it. So are you understanding it?
Yeah, I'm understanding that, but like how would that be like, so like the African studies, he created a department, so like a certain class would be centered on the school of cosmology and the school of whatever other philosophy.
I was actually just about to say that. See, I like how you're interested about this, you know? So through the way he created the curriculum, he was responsible for creating the curriculum. I'm not sure if he was responsible for the department per se, but for the curriculum, he really was. And he really wanted 2 phases in the curriculum, the expressive and the pragmatic. In the expressive phase, he really focused on the basis and the knowledge. He wanted the students to gain who they were through those type of classes, like for example, Black history. This showed them exactly what the history was like now. Because in a lot of Eurocentric perspectives in the history, they were taking, there's this place called Ma'at, and this was kind of like in past times where a lot of Europeans and explorers went there to gain knowledge. And this was really like advancement with the Black community. But a lot of the Europeans are taking credit for this. But you know, through the classes like Black history, they would be able to know about this. So I really, like for example, like Intro to Africana Studies, I really learned about that. I didn't know about
You learned all that in the Africana Studies class here?
You see, like I would have never known, and I would have kept being blinded by this Eurocentric worldview. And then he also says that once you're capable of this knowledge and once you understand, it's important to bring it back to the community, which is called the pragmatic phase, and which is how you adapt what, not adapt, but what you place, what you learn into a greater sense. So for example, like, of course, like Black counseling, it has to do with, it has a portion of how to talk within Black society and stuff like that, but then it also takes it into a practicum level, and then you would go into the community and offer what you learned into the community. So I really find that Nathan Hare is like a very, so that's why I was so excited to come talk to you about it. Yeah, so Nathan Hare really emphasized the role models. He wanted Black students to find someone who look up to, that they can also be successful within the African perspective rather than just being taught Eurocentric perspective as a structure, as a mechanism. I was talking to your daughter, so I have to go. I just really wanted to tell you this.